Welcome to Nostalgia Painter, where we're repainting your childhood one figure at a time. I am the Nostalgia Painter, and today we're repainting one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles' big bads, Krang. Now, this particular version of Krang was released by Playmates in 1989, and the figure you're seeing here originally came with a bubble to protect him and several arm attachments that could be connected to the walker. Unfortunately, after 30 years of ownership, all I have is Krang himself and the walker. He's a bit worse for wear, and I think he's a great candidate for a bit of a reimagining or rebirth, if you will. On today's episode, we are going to fully repaint Krang and his walker. So join me, my fellow TMNT fans, as I repaint your childhood. If you are an aspiring repainter like myself, don't underestimate the importance of a good fig bath. After 30 years of sitting in a box, Krang, of course, was full of dust and dirt, and we certainly don't want any of that getting in the way of our finished product. So take the time and scrub your figures with soap, warm water, and a toothbrush. Once the figure is clean and dry, it's time to prime. Using a good primer on your figures is key if you want the paint to stick and to avoid chipping once the job is finished. So here, I'm using Citadel's Corax White Spray. You can acquire it from your local Games Workshop, although you could also go to your local hardware store and pick up some of their primer as well. Just be sure to test it out before applying to a figure that you care about. Alright, so here we are in the painting studio, getting ready to apply our first brush strokes of paint. We're starting here with Citadel's base paint Screamer Pink. So this will be the darkest color that we're putting onto Krang. Overall, I kind of just flew by the seat of my pants with Krang for the most part. Just wanted to kind of start with a color and work my way up. Now, with everything you're seeing here today, there's going to be multiple applications of paint, multiple coats, likely 3 or more for each color that you see me applying. The gray here you're going to see in a little bit after one coat. It does not look very good, but this is the key to getting better at painting. Multiple thin coats. Get your paint, put some water with that paint, make it nice and thin, and dedicate yourself to spending a little bit extra time putting on those extra coats. And what that does, it allows the paint to build up and develop a very rich color without clogging any of the detail. And this is what you might have come across in the past if you are a person who has just put the paint straight from the pot right onto the figure. Now we skipped ahead a bit here with Krang as well. We gave him a wash. We gave him a purple wash, and the wash is basically something that allows you to create shade and shadows on the figure. He's got a lot of those brain folds, so I figured we'd put a little purple wash in there to make it a little bit more dynamic. Now we're going back to the walker. I started off with this purple color, very dark. It's called Nagaroth Night. And I thought maybe I would build it up and make it a little brighter, but we ended up going with this color. Of course, this is one coat, so it looks very streaky. Don't worry about that if you are attempting this. It will build up over time as you put more and more coats down. Now, we're entering into a different technique. Remember, we've put that original base coat of Screamer Pink on Krang, followed by the wash. We let that dry. And now we are doing a technique called dry brushing. Dry brushing is just that. You take a brush, you put some paint on it, you dry most of it off, and then you flick your brush all the way across the figure, and that's basically going to leave the paint on all of the raised areas. Here we're going to tone number 2 with the pink, just a step up from that Screamer Pink. And this is going to give us more depth to Krang's body. You know, in the original, he's just pink. He's pink with some blue veins. And now we're going to have a bit more meaningful texture and color because we're going to have another layer of pink on top of this. And you're going to see as we start building these colors up that Krang takes on a little bit of a different look. And especially right here, he kind of looks weird and gross. And I kind of like my Krang weird and gross. Also notice that with this highest pink layer, I'm not really doing it on the bottom of the figure. This is to simulate if the light was coming from above him. Obviously, the light isn't going to be hitting him on the underneath part of his body. So we just kind of did a gradient of those 3 pink colors. So there we have Krang's body done and dusted with the base coat and then the 2 extra layers of dry brushing. Now we had a bit of a color change here or lighting change here from one painting session to the next, but now we are going into the eyes of Krang. This is always a little bit nerve-wracking because once you've dry brushed, if you get that paint anywhere significant where you've dry brushed, it is a little bit difficult to correct that. So I was as careful as I could be, and here I'm just going in from multiple different angles. When you have a rounded eye, and especially when it's recessed into the figure, you do have to be very careful. I then went back through after this and touched up a few of the areas where the yellow kind of went onto spots that I didn't really want it to go onto. Then we moved on to the teeth. We got some spiky little teeth in here, made them nice and bright. This isn't an actual white. This is more of a gray tone that I also got from the Citadel paints. It's Ulthuan Gray, if you're looking to replicate that. And here he is, getting a little more detail in there, little by little. Now, switching to what was probably the most time-consuming part of this whole paint job, which was getting that nice blue color to show up on all of the veins all over Krang. For this one, we used another Citadel color called Lothern Blue. Although this was, a little bit nerve-wracking because you do have to follow those lines quite carefully, and the molding on Krang is not perfect. So there was a few confusing times where I was kind of like, oh, where is this vein going? I'm not exactly sure. But I was quite happy with the end result, as you will see shortly here. The keys with this, again, thin your paints as much as you can. It'll help that go on quite a bit more easy. And you'll end up with something like this. And Krang's looking good. I also put some black dots for the pupils, which the original figure did not have. I think it gives him a much more comic booky type of look. So there's Krang. We have one more step on Krang that I didn't catch on film, and unfortunately, this being my first ever painting video, I did miss a few go-arounds. We're adding the blue here to the top part of the legs. We will be adding in full details to this. Unfortunately, I did not actually capture the process of painting them, so once we finish this quick segment in just a few moments, we will be going on to the big reveal. In the future, I'll try to be a little bit more thorough with this. So coming up next, let's take a look at Krang in the flesh. Here he is, slowly coming into view. I'm very happy with Krang overall. There's a few little problems here and there that I'll probably still go back and touch up, but I think this was pretty good. Look at this guy. He's gross, huh? You can see that I went in and I finished off Krang with a bit of a glossy spray to give him kind of that wet brain look. And then on the walker itself, I sprayed that with a finish as well, but it was a matte finish. So then we get that bit of a contrast between the dry look of the actual walker and the wet, mushy brain of Krang. So what do you guys think? Was this a good glow up, a good rehashing, a good bit of nostalgic fun? I think it was. I enjoyed painting Krang quite a bit. I would happily do another one. Maybe I can get one that has all the accessories and the dome and all that to go with it. But up next is going to actually be a street shark. Do you guys remember street sharks? Street sharks are pretty awesome. I found one for very, very cheap. And we picked it up, and it needs a lot of work, but I think it's going to be pretty fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed this very first episode of Nostalgia Painter. Thank you so much for hanging out and being here. We'll see you guys next time.